There comes a point where when you're running a business, it just becomes your whole life, especially when you don't have kids. It is our life. And just to learn that we were off of our phone for 3 days and the world continued, and just putting yourself first is okay. Putting your needs and taking care of yourself is the number one priority.
Today on the Curious Builder podcast, we had a recap of the Curious Builder Bootcamp out in Zion National Park. So we had 7 builders on the podcast, just giving their highs and lows of the time out in Zion, kind of some of the unexpected moments of delight, some of the things that they took back to apply to their personal life as well as their business. I hope you enjoy. And without further ado, here's the Curious Builder recap of Zion National Park and Bootcamp. Welcome to the Curious Builder podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today is our Monday episode, and we have a special treat for you. Today, we're going to do the Zion Bootcamp recap, and I've got about 70% of all the builders that were there, and I thought it'd be really fun to just go around and just discuss what happened at Zion Bootcamp, why we did it, and for those that aren't aware of what it is, you can go to the website, curiousbuilderpodcast.com, check under retreats, under Bootcamp, and you can see this happened middle of May out in Zion National Park. We had 12 builders from around the country get together to celebrate wellness and do some different things. So without further ado, why don't we go around the horn? KA, why don't you guys introduce yourself? And we'll start with just give us a little bit about your company. And then the first question for each person will be, why did you want to go to boot camp? Go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin Arnold with KA Builders. This is my wife, Abby, right here. We're in Columbus, Ohio, and right now we're actually recording from Florida. We have a project down here as a result of the Hurricane Helene last fall. And why I wanted to attend, back in high school, my freshman and sophomore year, I actually did a project with Habitat where we went down to Appalachia and we built houses for a week, and we were completely off grid there. And there was a nice camaraderie of just being with a bunch of guys that went to school with, and the relaxation of being able to go off the grid and have nothing to worry about but what's exactly in front of you at the moment.
I wanted to go to boot camp for almost a little reset. Very rarely are you off the grid, no phones, no technology, with like-minded people. And I think that sense of community was really what I was craving. And I feel like I accomplished that at boot camp.
How about you, Brad?
So yeah, I'm Brad Robinson down in Atlanta, Georgia. I went for a number of reasons. I think for the community, number one, I definitely have loved embracing sort of the culture that is the Curious Builder. And it really, to kind of take it to the next level from the physicality perspective, go out with people that are like-minded, who wanted to be active, explore this kind of different territory. I mean, I've been to that part of the country before, but to be able to go and experience it untapped, just off the grid, and just sort of define some intentions. I think that was really what I wanted to be there for. And I came back feeling, just super recharged and reset.
I'm Spencer Neild. I'm Director of Operations for A Finer Touch Construction. And the reason I went to boot camp was because I caught wind that Brad Levitt could not attend, and I have gone to a collective before and started following Mark, and so I just had to drop some hints, and I just wanted to go because boot camp sounded fun but also difficult, and it was at Zion, which I've driven by 100 times and never gone, so that was also attractive to me.
It probably didn't hurt that I got to go to Arizona like 2 months ago to see my brother-in-law, and I convinced you to run Camelback Mountain with me. So you were going no matter what, Spencer. I was behind the scenes making sure someone from AFT came.
That was fun too.
Gutelli?
Hey, I'm Michael Gutelli, owner of Clark and Aldine. We're a residential design build firm in Plymouth, Michigan, just based outside of Detroit. I've been friends with Mark for a few years now, same with Brad. And, when I saw this event was happening, it was a little outside of my comfort zone, being away from my family, do a lot of traveling with them. So that was a challenge for me. But really the coming out of an injury, being able to go to boot camp and push my limits from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental standpoint, being without technology and just being surrounded by like-minded people. I mean, Brad hit it on the nose. This community is amazing, and you have to invest time in it to get the most out of it.
I'm Lance Anderson with Admit One Systems, one of the vendors involved in the trip. And like selfishly, I couldn't say no to a trip to an epic place like Zion without even knowing what was all included in it. But once I learned more about it, looked forward to getting my butt kicked. And I think it was already said, meeting like-minded people was something I sought after and definitely was honored on this trip.
For those that are listening, are tuning in, and you were kind of wondering what this is about, you can go back episode or two. I did a 20-minute recap that just kind of broke down what we did each day. I won't go over it again in detail, but essentially everyone got off the airplane, checked in their phones. There was no phones, no alcohol, and 2-day workouts in a beautiful national park. But I think one of the things that for me, the reason why boot camp for me, maybe I'll go as Mark Williams, the person is also the person that came up with this, was there's different aspects of my life that, being outside, adventure, like-minded people, there's all these different parts that make up who I am as an individual. I thought, you know what, maybe there's other people out there like me. And it turns out there's quite a few. And so I was like, I'm going to put this up. And, Morgan Molitor, shout out to her. She always says your vibe attracts your tribe. And so this was kind of a litmus test for me, is like, would anybody come? I knew I had a videographer, and I knew Addison Bain, our trainer, was going to come, and it was just going to be the three of us. Brad Robinson, he said yes before he even knew what was going on. So I knew there was going to be at least 4 of us. I sort of strongly coerced Lance into coming before he knew what was going. So there was definitely some tomfoolery behind scenes. But I wanted to fight the stereotype that builders are, in our community, are fat, lazy, alcoholic, hairy, flannel-wearing individuals. And I say that sort of jokingly, but also seriously. Like, there is a lot of athletes, and Gutelli knows this. This all started at Contractor Coalition in Huntington Beach 2.5 years ago. I went for a run one morning with Caleb McDonald from Canada, and we're out running at 5:30 in the morning. And I come back to the gym, and Michael and Dee are in the gym working out. I'm like, there's actually a lot of people that care about their health and wellness. And so those were just the early seeds that led to this. So one of the things I want to ask all of you, and maybe we'll just keep that order to keep some order in this, is what was your favorite memory? And we'll just start with that. Kevin, why don't you start with what was one of your favorite memories or a memorable moment that you remember from boot camp?
Yeah, memorable moment was when we did that ruck with the piece of equipment around. I thought I was going to die about halfway through that, and ended up finishing strong and being able to sprint through, and felt really good. Messed me up for the rest of the trip, but it was worth it.
I'm going to say canyoneering. That is so, for the guys that were up there with me, like, I was terrified. Like, I was shaking. Like, I was so nervous. That is just so out of my comfort zone, and that's not something I would normally want to do on my own. So kind of overcoming that mental aspect of that was a really cool once-in-a-lifetime experience for me.
Hopefully not once in a lifetime. Hopefully you do that again.
I don't know if I would want to voluntarily do that again, but I checked it off.
I don't know how you distill it to one singular thing that's my favorite. I don't know if it's
you can do a couple.
I've talked about this at least 6 or 7 different times to many different people. The parts of it that I kind of come back to are definitely like the cool run around with cups in our hands and filling the gallon up, and that was a lot of fun. But it's like, then do I really not say it's like the path opening up at observation point and seeing angels? Is that not it? And then it's like, I don't know. Or is it the quiet at night after we left the campfire? Like, just really amazing to be that quiet. So
only because a lot of people don't know. Do you want to briefly explain our water challenge, Brad?
Yeah. So, I mean, this was, for a guy who's pretty competitive, this one really nailed it for me, right? So I think that Addison did a great job putting us together. We walk up the hill to his tent where all the equipment's stored. And, you've got pick your poison between dumbbells and all the stuff that's sitting there, slam balls. But nope, not this time. There's 2 gallons of water. And we're like, okay, what's happening here? Just a bunch of solo cups and 2 gallons of water. We had no idea what we're about to get into. But nonetheless, Addison says, okay, great. Everybody get 2 cups in their hands, fill up, here's your team, whatever. So there's like 4 of us on everyone's team. You have 2 solo cups in your hand. We fill each one up to the brim with water. And he's like, okay, run this trail that's 1.3 miles long. And whoever gets to the end of this with the most water back into the gallon jug wins. And I just want to say it does feel nice to be on the winning team. So just to set the record straight here, I was very selfless. I drank none of that water. I might have spilled a little, but I didn't drink any of it, just to say. Yeah, so team 2 won, just to let everyone know. Spoiler alert.
There's some sour grapes here. I'm still in therapy about this. Yeah.
Did you carry, Mark?
Well, to be clear, we had a different strategy than you. You guys read Aesop's fable of the tortoise and the hare. I decided to go really fast without consulting my team. Classic alpha behavior. I just ran as fast as I could with 1 cup, emptied it, ran back to the Gutelli and emptied him and Kevin's cup, and then whipped them both past your guys. So we did get all our horses in at the end, but evidently there was no time bonus, which I really feel quite cheated about. But anyway.
Yeah.
Team 2 did have that discussion before we all ran off, so you might have missed on that one.
You guys are better team players than me. Clearly, you're better at scaling a business, Brad. How about you, Spencer? What are some of your memorable moments?
I think 2 things for me that I remember the most is just the car rides. We had to go into town, we'll just call it, to get dinner. We went into the park. So those are car rides, just listening to the conversations and being part of the conversations, but just listening to all of the great minds that were at this camp. And just gleaning information and seeing their personalities, and because everyone's talking about their interests, and some of it's business, some of it's not. And then for me, the challenge, the one we did where it was the 1.3 mile, you just pick a weight, which either kettlebell or dumbbell. And I picked a 20-pound weight, and we had to do that 1.3 mile trail run. Addison set us up good, telling us this is your last thing you have to do, give it everything you got. And so I took that like, okay, anything that I've sandbagged, I'm going to use all my energy right now. And like, it was just do the best you can. It's not a competition. Of course, I was trying to catch you, Mark, and Ben, and didn't quite catch you. But I remember giving everything I could just to get to finish line. And then Addison saying, okay, you have 2 minutes, drop your weight. You got to go back and run it in reverse. And that was just, mentally, that was really tough. But I just, also at the same time, I loved it because I'm like, okay, touche, Addison, like, let's go. So that was fun.
I thought that beat your time, by the way. Beat your time on the way back.
Yes.
Which everybody did. Every single person negative split. I think one person was at 0. I think Marty was dead even. And it was from 0 to 22 seconds. That was pretty impressive to me. I like what Addison did there. 3 things. 1 was you always have more to give than you think you do. 2, how quickly can you reset a new goal, which obviously as business owners, we have to do this all the time, but physically you're exhausted and you're like, how quickly can you be like, hey, I can get my breathing under control in 120 seconds to go back at this. And then my favorite part was when we started running past you guys and we're like dead focused, like at what point were the people that saw people running back at them, did it start to dawn on them like, wait a minute, this isn't over?
Well, for those who were in the front of the pack, it was very quick. We caught it pretty fast.
We just thought Mark was being a hero again and was running back for some other people's weights. But then when I saw the second person run by, I was like, oh, surprise. God. Yeah, we're doing this again.
How about you,
Gutelli? Not skip past Mark's driving. At some point, we have to get to that.
Well,
the car rides.
That's actually my first comment. I got 3. I mean, Mark's driving was spectacular. We had probably like top 5 chauffeurs of all time, and I know that when we took the Tahoe back, that was the last road traveled before that Tahoe gets sold to a consumer. So I definitely feel for whoever cuts the check for that one. Those shocks are going to have to be replaced a bit. I'm just kidding. Your driving was spectacular. I think 2 things. From a fitness perspective, I really enjoyed the first day's workout with the kettlebell and the ball slams being paired up on the yoga and meditation concrete platform. That was fun. That was just a good way to open it up. I'm big in lifting, and that kind of hit home for me. It was still a challenge, without a doubt. But I think the second piece for me was early mornings, going down for coffee and sitting around the fire, just whoever joined, whenever they joined, and the conversations, individual conversations that sparked from that, whether it was in the morning or throughout the day. There's a lot of time that you spend with individuals in the group, and you're not just always talking to the same person. And I think it allowed some vulnerability for us. And allowed us to get to know each other on a more personal level. We all know each other well from a business perspective. We follow each other, we support what each other are doing, but getting that connection from a personal standpoint just really tightens the relationship and bonds the community in a different way. I enjoyed it.
Secretly, I think Spencer's favorite part was the car ride because he was in the back, like getting air most of the time.
Reclined. Yep.
I have to go back to canyoneering. It's something I actually haven't done. And what was wild for me was the fact that, like we have a warm up on like a 45-degree slant that was like not even 6 feet, and then the next move is like straight down, like blind entrance to a canyon. I don't know how far. And I'm like, okay, I have a lot of experience with exposure. Like I'm not so comfortable with heights, but I'm around it a lot. And I was like, this was definitely testing me for sure, especially with our guide who I'm sure we were in safe hands, but had some character to him, I guess.
His best quote when we asked him later, Lance, I don't know if the rest of the team heard this, but Lance did. Somebody asked him, I think his name was Jimmy, right? What led you to Zion? He goes, a series of bad decisions.
When your nickname is Crash, you got to wonder.
In a
I
way,
didn't remember
only
his
he
name.
could deliver it.
He was good. I think for me, my most memorable part was the Jeffersonian dinners, or sorry, the Jeffersonian conversations. Someone had said that to me in passing, and I only thought of it like the day of while we were landing. I was like, I got to work this in. And for those that don't know what a Jeffersonian dinner is, someone had mentioned this, that Thomas Jefferson used to do this back when he was president, but you'd have 14 people at a table, and rather than having all these side conversations, you'd ask one question and only one person could ask at a time, but everyone in the group around the fire got to answer at night. And I really just enjoyed the depth that everyone was willing to share and just being super authentic. And as you mentioned, being vulnerable. The car rides, honestly, like Spencer, were some of my favorite conversations. We had a lot of time in the car to and from the airport, but also when we pulled an audible and said, hey, we're not waiting in these lines anymore. Zion was way busier than I thought it was going to be. So when Lance is like, we can get out of here by this hour route, we got out. And I just really enjoyed everyone just again, the talking. It was just really, I forgot how enjoyable just a road trip is with 7 people in the car, heckling each other, talking about all kinds of stuff. And we certainly talked about business. So for me, the most enjoyable stuff was the non-business stuff. This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive. If you're still chasing checks and juggling spreadsheets, it's time to upgrade. Adaptive is revolutionizing how builders get paid with AI-powered bill pay, automated draws, one-click payments, and built-in lien waivers. Faster payments, fewer headaches, and total visibility. Adaptive takes care of the back-end chaos so you can focus on what you do best, building. We've used Adaptive for 2.5 years and trust them to keep our projects moving and payments flowing. Learn more at adaptive.build and simplify the pay process today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 10 and episode 15. What was physically the hardest thing that each one of you did? Or maybe challenge you more? I know somebody had just shared like, hey, I lift a lot, but I don't usually lift in this dynamic way. So I've got to incorporate this into my workout routine. So maybe everyone can go around the horn and say, like, what was the most difficult challenge that you did?
I mean, I can start with that. I tend to be more of a cardio guy. I'm always on a bike or I'm running or swimming or whatever. I don't do a lot of dynamic lifting. I've never been properly shown how to lift, so it's not part of my routine. And working with Addison and getting some of these techniques on like how to specifically use a kettlebell, I was shocked on how much of a workout you can get with just like a simple weight. I actually was going to say I ordered and I got Addison's advice on which ones because he was very adamant, like make sure you get a good set. So I sent him a link yesterday and ordered a whole set of kettlebells that will be delivered here in a couple days. But yeah, like learning those movements and adding it hopefully to my routine. I think it's something that's important that I've been looking to do. I know that as we age, like lifting, I think is even more vital if I'm not mistaken in terms of keeping your bone density and especially when you apply the dynamic movements to it too. I don't know. That was for me was hard, but also one of the more rewarding things I got out of the trip too.
I'll go next. The cardio for me was just a challenge. I've said it many times, coming off an injury, not being able to run or bike or do any major cardio for 8 months. I was a little concerned about it, but doctors cleared it. It was just my lower back was literally shooting pain up both sides. And it was that having to fight through it, knowing that I'm good, I'm healthy, I'm safe, I'm not going to injure myself. This is just part of getting back into it. And I, knowing that I could do it, actually got me fired up when I came back. And I texted Lance, I think the day after we got back on Monday. He was speaking so highly of rowing, and specifically the Peloton rower, I believe, on one of our car rides. And I ordered it the Monday that we got back and let him know right away. So it's in the basement. We expanded our gym footprint.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's exciting. Again, I lift a lot, and it's being able to add that cardio in the mix is going to be great going into summer. So I'm excited.
That reminds me, I got to add you to my Peloton group now.
That's right.
How about you, Spencer?
For me, it was the kettlebell workout that first day. I just had not done that before, even though I have a kettlebell at home and I've done a few swings, but I learned that I was doing it wrong. So just learning the right technique and I don't know, I think my hamstrings are still tight from doing those RDL like kettlebell swings. And then the ball slams at the end of that, that wrecked me. So I was humbled for sure.
Man, it's hard for me to pick because like I do kettlebell at home, right? So I've got that in the mix. And honestly, day one for me, I felt better than I did feel day two. So if I'm talking about challenging, like both days were probably like a 6 of 10 for me. But the second day, I did have a little more fatigue on me. And so I think that weighted run, even though I had the rope, like trying to all out get after it. And Mark, I was actually the 0 split. I was a 1740 both ways. And I was really kind of irritated at that because I was like, there's no way I'm running a lot more downhill, but it was made way twistier. I would say that 2.6 mile run like had more for me that day specifically than the other stuff did, but it was really still a fun challenge.
Yeah, the cardio really did it for me. I'm used to working out and between 5 and 12 reps and taking a minute or two between sets. The intensity of everything, not having that rest in there like I normally would, was tough on me and shows a weakness in my training.
I think I'm going to say the hills, the elevation change just through the walking, the 1.3 mile loop, that had an elevation change. Walking on the campground to get up to our tent, we had to go up this little hill. And that's something, Ohio's flat, that I've never had to train, I've never had to work for. So I think just the going up and down, just on the day-to-day walks and stuff, and the hiking and all of that, that was really challenging for me.
I think the challenging thing was journaling. Being silent for 45 minutes for me was difficult. I'm usually not someone who spends much time in silence. I'm being serious. But I actually found it really rewarding. Addison had this thing where he talked about absolute journaling. I was trying to explain that to someone recently, and it was just, we tend to, being like myself, being very optimistic. I'm sure if I wrote like a reflective journal, I would probably just like make it probably rosier than it really is. But he kind of walked through that. If you just say like, the rock is brown, the sky is blue, like if you just start naming things that are absolute truths and you train yourself, like you'll be more from a third party view of yourself, you'll be able to like identify things in your life. And so I've paused even a little bit and have noticed certain things, like if I'm, having a certain attitude, or presenting something to my kids or at work or whatever, just being more aware of what it is, because I'm not very good at being sort of aware from a distance point of view. So I found that was sort of interesting and challenging for me, which sounds like a weird one to be challenged by. I think physically, the one I had to put the most effort in, only because Ben was throwing on his A game, was that second lap of the weighted run. That was harder. When he passed me at about, you guys weren't there, but Ben passed me actually at about, shout out to him. That's how you know who is really doing the work. He had a 20-pound dumbbell, like in a 90-degree, like you'd carry a hammer. I'm like, how is he running like that? And anyway, the hill got him. And so once I knew he was suffering on the hill, I was able to put the screws on him. But that was physically, it was challenging. But I wanted to make sure that, and I told Addison, like as we were contemplating like some of the things that we were going to do, he's like, you don't want this to be a torture camp. You don't want to make it so people can't do it and break people. He's like, save that for camp 2.0 or a future one where people know. Like, I wanted everyone to take things and apply it back, which you guys already answered that question. A number of you are basically ordering kettlebells or taking stuff back, which is super cool to see. Brad, something that was non-workout related, maybe I'll start. Brad and I were chatting, like, what are some things that you'll take back to your business or personal life? Having the phones taken away, I'd love to hear people's thought process on if they change their device usages. For me, I put my charger down in the mudroom, so I no longer have my phone in my room at all, just to get rid of the temptation. I go to bed pretty early, but it was like, hey, this seems like a simple move that I can make to not only encourage my spouse and so that my young kids can see it, but like set the stage that I don't want the phone to dictate what happens in my home once I get home from work. That was something that I took from the camp. And really, Brad, maybe you go next. You lit a fire on me on how to do that. I don't know where you're at in that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the intentions that, coming from the Jeffersonian talk, it was like just became apparent that I didn't miss my phone. Like, I didn't miss it while I was there. I missed my family. I did, of course. I missed the cadence of communication with my wife. I missed, being able to check in on my kids. My middle son had a game. But as I came away from it, I said, there's got to be a space in my life where it doesn't exist in some capacity. And so, I walked away from that, and I think we were on our way back to the tent. I said, I just need to lead by example in my house. I need to remove it from at least the bedroom. That needs to be a safe space. And so I did that. Came back on Monday, moved it out of the bedroom. Now, I'll admit we haven't been perfect, but I'm trying to set the tone, right? Like, it's like I run an Apple ecosystem in my house, right? So all of my remotes are my phone. And so I've like pulled out all the remotes and I'm charging them again and like trying to figure out where they're at, what drawer they're in. So we've been doing that. And it's been really nice, because it's weird when you're laying in bed. I got a little 3-year-old who jumps all over the place, and now I'm playing with him while he's jumping in bed and I'm not staring at my phone. It's just one little benefit of it, right? And it's a positive.
Well, and one of the benefits, as Lance is now your neighbor, he's hacked your remote and he's changing the station from the house next door.
I forgot I told that story.
Such a good story.
I need Lance to come wire my whole house so that I can just have a pad or something.
Yeah, he'll do it for you.
We'll travel for food.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Spencer? What was something that you've taken back that was maybe non-physical that you sort of applied to either business or your personal life?
Well, something I learned from the physical that I want to apply is just leading up to boot camp, you just have that goal. So I think probably all of us were ramping up our preparations, getting in a little more workouts, trying to prepare for boot camp. But just after that, I'm just more aware of doing exercise and having a goal. So now I have a goal to do a 50K. And so just having a goal inspires you to take action, to do something. And so I think within a company, like if you don't have some kind of a goal or something that people are looking forward to, they're just not going to perform. But if you can set some kind of goal and create that vision, then people start doing little things working towards that.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal. I know you were chatting with it a little bit on the last day. You were talking to Addison and myself. I mean, you were just saying how much you hate running on pavement, and until you can get out, on trails with your wife, it's like, how do you prioritize the trail running when you're in an urban environment? That's a challenge. How about you, Gutelli?
So the phone was a big one. We've been trying really hard the past year or two with the kids. We don't have phones at dinner. And something Danielle and I implemented is when we get home from work, really having 2 hours of dedicated family time, no phone, no email, nothing. And if we do have to tap back in later, then we just give ourselves an hour to do that. But going further down to technology, I'm a big NBA fan. There's a lot of West Coast teams. A lot of the games are later, and we have a TV in the bedroom. Well, I think 4 days ago, I turned the TV on to finish one of the playoff games, and it wouldn't go on. Like there's a little bit of light, I could hear audio, but the screen is shot. I was like, all right, I ordered another TV and it's sitting in our foyer right now. And right after I ordered it, I just thought to myself, I don't think I'm going to reinstall this. I'm just going to install a piece of art. And I'm actually sending that TV back because what I've realized is not having that TV in the bedroom, even for 3 days, once I go upstairs, it forces me to just shut off, which means I'm in bed earlier and I'm up earlier. And it was just a small tweak that, yeah, the NBA season will be done in like 3 weeks. But that still could be a habit that could turn into, oh, I'm going to finish this movie, or, oh, something else is on, or this is on. And it just becomes a trickle effect. So no more TV in the bedroom.
That's awesome, man. Good job.
I mean, I know there's been a lot of conversation about the phones, and there's the obvious benefits of not being notified continuously of whatever's happening, and surely plugging back in after a couple of days and realizing the world hasn't ended and everything went accordingly, like it was relieving. But one thing I noticed, which I appreciated, was not not just the notifications, but not physically even having the phone on my person was like noticeable. Like you felt like you were missing something all the time because you're just like, okay, like you do your pocket check. You're like, I got my phone, I got my wallet, I got my keys type of thing. But it was like the weight of the phone, like, and how freeing it was to not like walking around in shorts as a guy and not have like a however half-pound phone in your pocket was actually nice. And it was like, all right, how much can I not have a burden of my watch on, but like how much more can I utilize a smaller device and not have to carry around the phone? So like I went for a run the other day. I was inspired to do the Murph as a result of all the conversations and workouts amongst this group and a different group that I'm in. And I did the Murph. I was like, I don't want to carry my phone. And I had to spend a moment to figure out how to get my watch to play music because I did want to listen to music while I was running. And I did that. So that's my takeaway from that, which was kind of unexpected.
You have to appreciate that. You have to tell the story. Kristen just told me yesterday on our team, tell the group what happened while you were gone from your daughter and the duckies or the little rabbits or whatever.
Oh,
That's an amazing
this
story.
Yeah, inside scoop is like jokingly, squirrels are like my spirit animal. And the kids broke into the house while I was gone. They were with their mom, but they don't have access to the security system. But when I turned my phone on for the first time after a couple of days, my security system's telling me that your system was disarmed, but then I'm seeing it's armed again. And I'm like, what the heck happened? Well, it turns out that my business partner, Kristen, got a call from one of the kids to get access to the house because they knew the code to get in. And then they planted, because it was my birthday, 46 squirrels like all through the house. It took me several hours to find them all. So
The way that's such an amazing, the way I heard it when Kristen told me the story was one of your daughters said, I don't know if I'll ever get a chance like this again because my dad is so wired in. I know he's off the grid for 3 days. So I could, because otherwise your security system would have like caught them red handed, like on camera, like breaking into your house. They're like, this is a free pass to do whatever I want to surprise you. I just think that story is amazing.
No, I think Kristen offered that to my kids.
That's what good business partners are for.
Yeah.
How about you, Kevin and Abby? What were some things that you've applied either to your life or to your business from just things that you've observed or heard during your time there?
I think my biggest takeaway is you have to take care of yourself first. There comes a point where when you're running a business, it just becomes your whole life, especially when you don't have kids. It is our life. And just to learn that we were off of our phone for 3 days and the world continued, and just putting yourself first is okay. putting your needs and taking care of yourself is the number one priority.
My big takeaway came from, I think it was a conversation around the fire of how Brad Levitt runs his life. And that was, as soon as something comes on his plate, he handles it right away. And I've been pretty intentional the past week and a half, trying to just take care of things in the moment rather than putting them off.
This episode is brought to you by Olive & Vine Socials. If you're a builder, a designer, an architect looking to grow your brand without dancing on TikTok or spending your whole life on social media, listen up. Olive & Vine Social specializes in Pinterest marketing, blogging, and email strategy for luxury home brands. Did you know that Pinterest is second only behind Google in search power engine? We've been able to use it for the Curious Builder brand, and it's dramatically changed who we reach and how we reach them. They help you turn your beautiful work into strategic, SEO-driven content that drives real traffic and connects you with your ideal clients without burning you out. Ready to grow smarter and not harder? Visit oliveandvinesocials.com and tell them the Curious Builder sent you. I don't read my emails on my phone and just in general. And someone had once told me that if you read it on your phone, then you read it on your computer, just the amount of times you read and reread a message before you finally deal with it, how much time is wasted. You guys probably seen it on Instagram, the Fixer AI app, or at least been advertised that served it. Well, I finally broke down and I did it. And it's interesting. So it pre-drafts some of your emails, and they're not all right and all wrong and whatnot. It's just a way to process it. But I've noticed that owners of companies have the shortest emails, which I can appreciate because we have a lot on our plate. And if someone sends you anything beyond 2 to 3 paragraphs, like you just tune out. And I think I mentioned this to my office manager today. Like, he's like, yeah, if someone leaves a 2-minute voicemail, I just hit delete. Like, or have you guys ever been out of town where you leave like a voicemail where it says like, hey, I'm out of town, I'll return calls on Monday. And like a new vendor or new trade partner, or somebody wants your attention and they leave you a 2-minute message, I'll hit delete. Cause I'm like, how did they not know I'm gone? Like, do they not respect the idea that can they not read the room here? Like, I'm gone. Like, do you think I want to come back on a Monday and have a 2-minute phone call? It's just sort of wild that people are trying to get your time. And so I've just noticed that business owners tend to be pretty short and to the point, and not rude, but just very clean communication. Do you guys agree with that?
Elon has 1-word responses. Like, that's totally acceptable. And I think it's acceptable in my organization. You are requesting an answer, I'll give it to you. I'm very brief and to the point in certain communications, especially if it's a need to know or FYI. And that's what I love about Fixer. Like, I know we were talking about it in the car, and I've been rocking Fixer for a while. I just love how it automatically pre-sorts all those emails into those folders. So it's like, these are the ones I know need attention, and that's it. These are FYIs, these are attention. I've already drafted responses to these or whatever. So I use it frequently, and I love that mentality. Like, you got the answer, keep it moving.
Yeah. What would you think would be keep it or kill it? We've talked before that we'll probably identify 3 places. I think I've already narrowed it down to 2. I think when I left you guys a week and a half ago, it was either going to be Costa Rica, Mexico, or Montana for the next boot camp. It'll have new challenges, new people. Addison will come back. Kaylee, our videographer. We should probably do a shout out to her at some point. I mean, she was amazing capturing all this. We haven't released the content, but people out there will be getting it soon. I think Montana is going to be ruled out because unless we did a winter one. I'm kind of thinking a late fall. As I've polled people, and I think you guys all got I don't know if you filled out your surveys yet, but basically it'd be like November timeframe or potentially like April, May again. Anyway, just curious, each one of your thoughts, like what are some things that either location wise or some challenges you'd like to see in the next boot camp?
Underwater rock running.
Yes, my man. I actually wanted to do that. Addison killed. He's like, someone's gonna die. And
I was just stealing that from you. Now I want to do it though. So that's the problem.
We'll get Laird Hamilton to come teach us how to do it. I think you have to do a little prep game for that one.
If we do Costa Rica, let us bring surfboards.
Well, I think we would go to a surfing town where we would have surfboards, and we would. I think Costa Rica is probably the one I'm leaning towards just because of the surfing in particular on the West Coast. Not that I'm any great surfer, but I just like being in the water. And I think water is really calming, but also very humbling, because if you don't respect it, you got to respect water.
There's monkeys there too, I heard.
How is that gonna fit into boot camp? What are you gonna fight a monkey or
Can
what?
we tame them? Can we like play with them? Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure. Have you seen the movie Outbreak? I'm not sure playing with monkeys is going to be on the boot camp repertoire. Anyone besides Brad and his bad ideas? Anyone else got a good idea that they want to bring to boot camp?
Cold plunges.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that was definitely that hit the
that'd be
nail.
a good
A
one.
sauna and a cold plunge though.
Agreed.
I think I told you about. So Under Canvas, shout out to them. They have amazing situations. So for those that are listening, check out undercanvas.com. There's 14 locations in the country, not the 22 or 40 that I said it was. But the one that we were going to go to was actually more even higher end. It had sauna and cold plunge, but I was trying to be mindful of cost, especially for this inaugural boot camp, not knowing what people would tolerate to do for a trip like this. Because I definitely wanted the sauna and cold plunge because I think it's so therapeutic. And we've obviously we do the Curious Builder boot camp, sauna camp here in January, which will run again. Brad, I know you've been to that, and Kevin and Abby, you came to that this year. So we'll be doing that again in January. It's almost like a dedicated thermal culture event where it's just a single day sauna, cold plunge, and then an amazing meal. But I'd love to do it. I don't know how available an ice tub is going to be down in Costa Rica. I guess we'll have to figure it out.
I did a cold plunge in Costa Rica. It was more manual though.
We'll bring
Lots
that.
of ice.
Like a big horse trough and ice. That works.
Exactly. Yeah.
This community. I won't say his name, poor guy. I don't want to shame him. I was asking people on day 1.5, a couple of people, or you guys all know who I'm talking about. And he was like, oh, wow, this is a lot nicer than I thought. He goes, I thought we were all sleeping in one tent. I was like, I can't believe you came to this boot camp if you thought that. With the glamping situation, I wanted food was something that I wanted to be really good. And obviously our sleeping situation, I wanted to be a high-end experience. The rest of it, you guys are going to get work during the day, but make sure you got to recover by eating and sleeping good.
We had hot water. We were good.
Yeah, hot water was there. The car rides to dinners and whatnot were awesome. But Mark, you had brought up a couple times like really wanting to have more of that family style setting for all of our meals. So I think that'd be just another fun way to just kind of even tighten the communication in the community a bit more.
The group size,
that's probably what you'll have to do.
Yeah, I mean, the goal originally was to get to a 20. I was going to cap it at 20. 12 ended up being about the perfect number, really. But I wanted a dedicated chef that made all the meals at one long table so that every meal was on site. That was the appeal of like a ranch in Montana or up in the mountains where you would never leave. And so it'd be even more remote. I mean, obviously, sometimes each location, you're kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't work. But I sort of like the isolation approach from a town and just sort of being completely remote. So as we look for different spots to do this in, that's a big priority of me. Because I feel like when you get away from the commonality, I mean, obviously we took away the phones, but even if you just get away from car rides, well, that ended up being one of the most meaningful things that happened. And maybe we should just do a trip to like Iowa. We'll just drive around in cornfields and just spend a lot of time in a car together if that was everyone's high point. But anyway, we'll come up with some cool ideas, and obviously you guys will be a part of it. So.
Thanks.
Why do you think wellness is having such its day right now? I feel like you can't go anywhere. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, so we're going to get a lot of biased answers. But I feel like regardless of where I look, corporate America is signaling that wellness is important. I think you look at the explosion of fitness brands and running brands and apparel brands and food and drink. Any thoughts on why we're seeing this show up everywhere all the time? Or is it just me?
Yeah, I think we've kind of hit a point with technology and everything where there's only so much advancement. Like we went from 20 years ago being very basic in things to being very advanced so quick that I think now everybody's catching up with the fact of, okay, maybe this wasn't a good idea that we've been doing this. And rather than trying to go out and invent new things, let's focus on what we have right now and make the best of longevity on everything.
I think it's a couple things. If you go back to 2020, we know when COVID really hit the world, people that worked in corporate America, they were home, and you didn't have the camaraderie of, in office, you weren't walking to lunches, you weren't mobile. And then obviously all of the negative aspects of COVID and the unfortunate deaths that occurred, I think that put in perspective life and put a microscope on health And you pair that with the goodness of social media, which is having a platform for fitness and health influencers, reliable information output. You pair those together, and I think it's created a movement right now. And it's obviously a good movement, but that's, going back to 2020 and looking before that, like we just didn't see the priority on mental health, but also the physical health, which goes hand in hand.
Yeah. I think it's like a moment of reflection for humanity almost, right? Or at least us in America who are used to running this race. And like you said, everybody was just kind of doing what they've always been doing. And then having that moment to pause and reflect, you begin to realize like, wow, I stopped eating all this garbage and all of a sudden I feel good. Maybe I should continue to eat well. Oh, wow, I now have time to exercise. Oh, wow, I'm really feeling good. Maybe I need to do that often. And so, I think that it kind of became culture too, right? Like it's cool to be healthy now. It's cool to, like athleisure became a thing really kind of through all this too. So like people are looking more athletic all the time, So I think it's part culture, but I think part of it is like people just want to feel better, and they know now that the data's there. Like all you have to do is eat well and exercise. Like it's pretty simple. So who can do that the best now? That's really what it is, I think.
Do you think in terms of building like a home, what for the builders out there that are listening, how do you think wellness can be from a marketing tool? And I mean, for those that are interested, you can go to misahoos.com and you can check out what I'm doing here in Minnesota, but I don't want this to be about me. I'll talk enough about Misa Hoos in future podcast episodes, but what are you seeing as both brands' commitment to wellness and the brands that you work with and the products that you put in homes? And how often are either your clients, yourself, or a brand partner somehow discussing wellness in the creation of a home?
I don't see many brands talking about it, but the focus from the homeowners is definitely there and it's relevant, right? Topics about indoor air quality, water quality, and sustainability are prevalent in every conversation during the planning phase now. We still hear some conversations about off gassing. So, what products are going to off gas before they enter the home for the first time? Those are some of the questions. But I don't know if the brands have an ability to manage the narrative that well unless they're making a product that specifically helps or enhance, right? Like, so you think about Brone or like the ERV systems, or you think about like indoor air quality specifically, like dedicated dehumidification in the house, like what we have down here in high humidity zones. So controlling the environment is definitely a part of the equation, and keeping that air clean is certainly something here that we hear a lot about.
Spencer, do you find that you're down in Arizona when you guys build some amazing homes? How often are your clients bringing forward wellness requests, or how often are you bringing it up to your clients in design?
I think that's a big part of it. What Brad said about air quality, it's very important, like the ERV systems. We have a lot of clients that want home gyms. We talk about lighting systems, circadian rhythms. Lance could probably tell us all about that. But I feel like people are building smarter homes that they're going to be using because they're there more. I mean, people are getting out, but they're also living in their homes more. And so having that home gym, having all of those things where their quality of life is better just in their homes. That's a big part of the design right now.
Yeah, Spencer hit it too. Like when I think of our traditional list of technology products we provide, there's not a lot of wellness into it until we start thinking about lighting. And like was mentioned, the circadian rhythms are a big one for mood and mental health, I believe. But then the placement of the light is also an important thing too. Like we always talk about aging in place as we get older, having light down low in the knee or the toe space of a home just makes it easier for balance and navigation, and you're not tripping on anything, but those sorts of things. But lighting is a big one around it.
Shout out to some of you, Brad knows who this company is, but Pentair is actually in Minnesota. And I just actually toured their headquarters today. We're going to be working on some stuff at Misahus in particular with them. And, they had just came to me and said, we're really attracted to what you're doing in the market around this home based on wellness. And they're going to be launching a product here shortly that not only, most of us are familiar with like reverse osmosis or carbon filters or water softeners. They're going to have a whole house system that does all of those things, but as well as replacement of minerals. And I know Gutelli and Lance and Brad specifically, you guys were talking about vitamins and supplements and different things that you already use in your natural life physically. It's called biohacking to to feel better, to do better for a variety of reasons. But I think the home, we spend the majority of our time in our home. Obviously when we're sleeping predominantly, but also interacting with it. And water is something that we obviously ingest, no different than air. And I'm really interested. I think there's a huge force multiplier in marketing for the brands out there, not only the brands, but the builders that are going to be at the forefront of this and really lead this message. This is something that will set you apart. And this is something that your message will sound different. It doesn't have to be your whole home based around it, but at least acknowledging like, hey, we have a model home, or this is how we do our process. I think clients are getting ready to be very in tune with what we're putting in our home. So I think this wellness thing is only going to continue to build and build and build. And I think it's up to us as an industry to really captivate on it, especially because obviously we're all biased here. We just went to boot camp. We're probably pretty interested in our natural health anyway.
Yeah, there's a really cool use case for this. If you look deeper into sort of the health influencer side, there's a guy out there named Eric Hinman who's building a house in Austin, Texas right now. And when you look at it surface level, you're like, oh, wow, look, he's paying attention to the air pocket indoor. He's using a zip system. And then you dig down a little bit deeper. He's got sophisticated air filtration systems in it. And then you look a little deeper, and then it's the entire house is based on him using it as a place that's a retreat, like it's a wellness retreat. So, integrated wellness, sauna, cold plunge, full gym. It's like pretty sharp. But like that house, like if you just look him up on Instagram, he's posted a couple of times about that specific house. That's a great use case for what a healthy house can be too. A little bit different, right, than what you're doing with Misahus. It's definitely like for a single family environment, like what you're doing is way more appropriate. What he's doing for like a wellness retreat kind of place, like that is maybe a different piece, but it's really cool to look at that house that he's building as something kind of unique like that too.
We had someone, Lance, recently, speaking of like the lighting or the Ketra that does the circadian rhythm. For those that aren't aware of what that is, Lance, you can hit him up at Admit One. He'll be happy to tell you about it. But I think we had a client who gets migraines terribly. And we're doing a project right now where all the lighting specs, she had to go try every single light out in the showroom of our AV partner. And I'd never seen anyone that sensitive to lighting. And it was really informative of me to maybe ask questions differently on the front end. Now, she chose us not for those reasons, but having that message so that clients would know who to turn to. Like obviously, if physically, you would go to doctors and you would go to whatever your ailment is, but sometimes people don't know what they don't know. And a lot of times our clients, when they have something like this, are almost educating us to go to our partners like a Lance or somebody else and say, hey, I have a client with this issue. Can you help me solve it? Yeah, no problem. This is what I can do for you. So I think that we need to ask better questions and ask more of our partners, like, what should we be putting in our home? Or like, kind of the golden question is, if you had an issue, what would you put in your home? And it's like, everyone has seen, I'm not knocking spray foam necessarily, but I guess I sort of am. But those guys are wearing full body suits and respirators. Like that clearly is not okay to breathe just casually. And to think that spray foam is the end all be all to all things, it has its place. It's great at air sealing, but we are putting thousands of products in people's homes. Like we do have some responsibility to be educated, and we can't know it all. But I think that's where we have to lean on our partners and say, hey, help us get there. What do you recommend? How can we solve this problem?
We're here to help as
Right.
a partner. Just to firm up what you're saying, even about the migraine aspect of it, as you guys know, I just went through this process of building a house myself as a client, basically. And one of my main requests to our company, Aurora One, that does all the lighting, was I'm really sensitive and do get migraines on a monthly basis, but I'm sensitive to glare. So the main spaces throughout the house, obviously I'm in the garage right now, but the main spaces throughout the house are primarily lit by indirect lighting. So all linears, you can't see any of the filaments. I can walk and navigate the whole house during the night without turning on any traditional architectural lights. There is architectural lights in there because they are needed for service, but I mostly navigate it with all the indirect linear lights. It just helps not trigger any migraines.
I think recently we've seen triple pane windows for a long time. We're obviously touted for their energy efficiencies, which is right and true. But I have two clients right now. One is Misa Hus and another one is this other client where sound is a big one. I only think of that as like boot camp. Like one of the things that stood out when you're at boot camp is how quiet everything is, but how, I don't know if you guys notice this at night when you're going to sleep, you know, we went to bed pretty early and you'd hear people walking on gravel. And granted, we're in a tent, right? So there's not, canvas tent doesn't have a lot of insulation value, but like I could hear people walking. And my point is, I don't think we spend enough time talking about sound. I know I don't. And it's something that I'm sort of passionate about now. As I bring up sound, I don't ever want to give the illusion that my clients are going to get a soundproof house and it's completely isolated. Like that's sort of disorientating perfectly. I think there's actually in Minnesota, there's actually a completely soundproof room. And there's video YouTubes of it where it removes all sound and people can't stay in it for more than just like a few minutes. It's like no sound, like a complete absence of sound is super disorientating to your balance. And I'll send you guys the video after. It's pretty wild. Anyway, I digress. Talking to our clients about sound, you know, maybe you have young kids. I've had some clients that say, hey, I want cast iron pipes put in because I don't want to hear toilets flush or running water. I just think, I think the questions just need to be asked. And some of these natural things that we're pursuing, I can lead us there in a different way.
1,000%. I mean, as a custom builder, those are the questions that I think it's expected of us to ask, right? And I don't, Spencer, I'm curious because you guys don't have many second floors in your homes, right? Like you guys are mostly like big sprawling resort style ranches.
Yeah, for the most part, that we have some that have second floors or even some basements. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you being asked? We're being asked a lot to do cast iron drops, but then not only the cast iron drops, but we're using a closed cell spray foam around the cast iron drops. Have you heard of that yet?
No, I have not heard of that.
Yeah, because they're going to sweat naturally. So that's one of the other factors of it too, is like, I mean, I think it's really just more for more sound deadening, but in the Charleston market, we get that pretty frequently. Thought that was pretty wild. And then triple pane. You guys used a lot of triple pane. I mean, when you're up in that kind of like elevate, let's say you're in Paradise Valley, you already have some elevation. Are you worried about sound up there, or do they want it to be a little bit more? Do they want more sound passing through?
No, I don't think I haven't really had a home where sound was a particular issue, but just having that dual pane or triple pane is important just because of the heat and all the heat gain. I will say something like, Mark, coming back to your question when you were talking about just like why the focus on health and wellness and like how does that apply to home building? To me, it's like it's a function of cost. I feel like we have the internet and all these things, and the cost for people to become healthier, it's becoming easier and more affordable for people to be healthier now. And I think for us as home builders, these smart homes and all of these things that people want are becoming more affordable, or we have to make them more affordable so that people can have these ERVs and all these systems in it, because starter homes or things like that, like they're not going to have all of these amenities that might be considered healthy or have the fancy lighting systems and things like that. So as the costs come down to where more people can afford it or enjoy it, I think that's going to be important as builders.
Make it more attainable. Well, I want to respect everybody's time. Appreciate everyone coming on and giving everyone a recap of the Curious Builder Boot Camp. Again, thanks for tuning into the Curious Builder podcast. And if you want to reach out to everyone, we'll have them in the show notes when the episode airs. Thanks again for joining the Curious Builder podcast. We've had the podcast now for 2.5 years, coming up on 3, and I get questions all the time through DMs on Instagram, emails, as well as to our account. Maybe we've had a guest on where a question has come up that really triggers an idea for you. If you didn't know, we have a one-to-one consulting session through the Curious Builder platform on our website, curiousbuilder.com or curiousbuilderpodcast.com. You can click on the one-to-one and schedule 1 hour of my time, and we will simply just sit down, have a virtual call, and we'll talk about any business idea that you want, marketing, branding, operations, really anything that helps you and helps your business. Maybe it's a guest that you had on that you want an introduction to. Maybe it's a guest we've had on and they brought up something about scaling or hiring and firing, or anything that might resonate with you as a business owner that you want to expand and talk on. We'd be happy to do it. Again, that can all be found in our consulting page. It's really been really enjoyable for me as well to work directly with people. We've had probably 10 or 15 of these over the last year. A lot of times it's contacts or people to set them up in a way that makes them successful. And so if you're interested in that, please reach out to us at thecuriousbuilderpodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder Podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.